All right, we're back on the outdoor couch. American League win totals. We've got the projected number. We go over or under. Tell us what you hate. You might tell us what you love, but people like commenting hate more than love.
Yes.
So,
Jinx.
yeah. Again, here's what we're going to do.
I hated that.
Again, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go by projected win total. The highest is going to go first. The lowest is going to go last. So I'm not going to spoil it with the AL East because it's kind of interesting who has the highest projected win total. But, let's look at the AL Central. Minnesota is at 86.5 projected wins. The White Sox are at 60.5 projected wins. So when we do the AL Central, Minnesota is going to go first because they're the highest. They're predicted to win the division. The White Sox are predicted to be the cellar dweller, so they're going to go last. But we start with the American League East, and the team with the highest projected win total is the New York Yankees at 91.5. Baltimore's at 90.5. I'm just going to spoil that right now. But the Yankees are at 91.5 wins. They made some moves. Notably, Juan Soto is a New York Yankee now. Less notably, but still important, Alex Verdugo is a New York Yankee now. Marcus Stroman is a New York Yankee now. They got better, but they lost the best pitcher in baseball for what seems like a month and a half, 2 months. I think that was the report that I saw, but no structural damage. Structural damage, but he doesn't need TJ as it stands right now. 91.5. Aram, you first, because I know Peter's going to go long on this thing. Where do you stand?
Go that long. I'll go longish. Longish.
That's the roster breakdown.
Longish.
91.5.
I got to go under here. I honestly think they're going to have a good year, and I think they make the playoffs. I think this is going to be a pretty good team. But with the Garrett Cole situation, it's really tough to come out and say, hey, I could see this team as my dogs. Just walk into the shop.
You got the doggos.
I look at the ball club, and what are we going to get from DJ LeMahieu? I think that's a huge question. Obviously, you have to be encouraged with what you're seeing from Giancarlo Stanton so far in spring training, and that's a guy that I will take the spring training takeaways because he just looks healthy. So that's nice, but is it going to last the whole year? But I think it really boils down to the pitching. Like, the guys that you're relying on now are guys that, like, Nestor Cortez has struggled to stay healthy. Rodon has struggled to stay healthy and just struggled, period. We are waiting to see when Cole comes back. Stroman was banged up last year even, too, and that's kind of your innings eater guy. And I still don't know. We don't know what the deal is with Cole. Like, what if Cole is, not necessarily coming back as soon as we thought? So I got to go under. I feel like this team's going to have a lot of high-scoring games, going to rely on the bullpen a lot, and I think the bullpen's good, but, 92 is a lot of wins. I just think it's going to be tough for them.
There are a lot of wins, and I'll go real quick, too. There are guys that I hope are good in the starting rotation when they do make their debut. I'm not sure if they're going to be good or not. I love what I've seen from Clayton Beeter this spring. They're going to rely on Clayton Beeter to be like the 5 on the opening day roster. He's going to make the opening day roster. And then you've got a guy like Will Warren. How good is he going to be when he gets his first shot? Is Luis Gil going to get another shot to start games? How's he going to look? Is Chase Hampton ready? How is he going to hit the ground running?
Don't forget about Luke Weaver.
Sure. Okay, Luke Weaver, right? He's probably the 6, and he's going to make the opening day roster as the long man. So all of a sudden, this turns into begging Carlos Rodon to be great again, and it's begging Clark Schmidt to be really good as a 4, and relying on Nestor Cortez off of an injury-riddled season, relying on Marcus Stroman off of an injury-riddled season. And again, I'm banging the drum. Starting pitching depth. They traded it away for Juan Soto. It might come back to bite him in the ass. I see 89 wins. I don't see 92.
More than fair. So the Yankees opened at 93.5 wins. And what happened was Garrett Cole needs an MRI on his elbow.
Yeah.
And if he's down for the count, makes sense why they drop it 2 wins below. Before that happened, I made the number 92.5. And what I mean is, if you haven't listened to the NL episode and don't know how I make my number, so Fangraphs has a bunch of different projection systems, as does Bakota. I find their average projection by putting them all in an Excel spreadsheet, and then I make my adjustments based on my view of the team. And more often than not, the Yankees are going to be one of the more overvalued teams in the market due to the fact that they are the most valuable team in Major League Baseball and a team that a lot of people want to bet on more often than not, especially this year after they make some additions. What I view at when looking at this team is boom or bust. Last year was bust. There have been a couple of years prior where there was boom, and this roster has that written all over it, right? Especially when we look at the pitching staff. right? Nestor Cortez Jr., all-star 1 year, banged up and injured the next. What is he? Marcus Stroman comes from Chicago to New York. Does he take a step up? Is he the same? Does he take a step back? We don't really know. What happens with Garrett Cole? Right there, I can even keep going down the line, like Clark Schmidt. Does he take another step up? Right? And we're talking about all the other 5 starters as well. Do one of them take the ascension? There's also the other side. What if Carlos Rodon gets injured again? What if Marcus Stroman takes a huge step back? There was a reason he didn't sign for that much money.
He's also 33.
He's also 33. Nestor, you can put in the same bucket. So this could be a disaster of a rotation, or we could be looking at a rotation that is one of the best in the league based on talent, right? If Cole comes back. That's what I'm saying. If Cole comes back. I'm talking scenario 1 in terms of boom, where everything works out for them. They could be that 100-win team. And then there's, but a more likely scenario, and why I'm on the under as well, is that I think it's more bust than.
Yes.
I don't think that DJ LeMahieu, regains a lot of what he had.
So when you say most talented, that is kind of a sweeping statement that I guess on paper I would disagree with, but I can see how they do turn into that, because at the end of the day, they have Aaron Judge and Juan Soto in the same lineup. And then you've got other guys like Gleyber Torres. Gleyber could very well put up a 120 WRC plus.
Yeah, in a contract year, of course.
So, and Anthony Rizzo, man, like if he finds that, pull side pop again, that guy could hit 30.
And if Stanton is healthy.
If Stanton's healthy. So I see what you're
Rizzo
saying.
coming off that concussion as well. He's back and healthy. There's just a lot to be excited about if you are a Yankees fan.
Volpe can make a lead.
Yes.
Volpe can make a lead. It could just all go wrong.
There's a lot that could go bad.
That's why I would take the under as well. That wasn't that long.
No, that wasn't long. You did a good job.
I know this team. This team it looks decent on paper, some of the names. But
Trent Grisham as a 4th outfielder is awesome.
It is awesome.
So, okay. Baltimore, 90.5. I went under on the Yankees. I go over on Baltimore. This is the best version of the Baltimore Orioles that we have seen in quite some time, maybe since they had 4 20-game winners in the same year, and
in 70, whatever.
Yeah, you got to go back a ways, man.
Yeah.
In my lifetime, this is the most excited Orioles fans should be for Baltimore Orioles baseball. Corbin Burns is a top 5 pitcher in the game consensus. I view him as a top 3 pitcher in the game. Grayson Rodriguez can make that jump to being a top 10 pitcher in the game. You heard our conversation with him last week. Dean Kramer, Tyler Wells, they pitched really well last year until they ran out of gas. Man, why can't they do well again? Cole Irvin slated in as the 5. Irvin was throwing 96 his first time out in the spring. Not to mention, you've got Kyle Bradish, who avoided the dreaded UCL issue, and he should be back. It was an elbow sprain. You've got John Means on the mend. He'll be back for the majority of the season. And then we've talked about it, the 2 young starters they have waiting in the wings. Chase McDermott and Cade Povich are as close to MLB ready as you've got. So the starting pitching questions are answered. No Felix Bautista hurts. They can piece it together in the bullpen. This lineup is as good of a blend of top-end talent and depth as anything we've got in the game. Their 9-hitter is going to be awesome. They're going to pinch out Heston Kjerstad from the opening day roster. Kyle Stowers has 7 spring training homers, and he's not even a thought to be on the opening day roster. This is awesome. I think we're looking at the best team in the American League, and I think that this price is kind of crazy. I go over.
You want to go ahead? Or do you want...
You go ahead.
So, the Orioles are an interesting case because BetMGM's highest liability is the Baltimore Orioles. And what I mean by that is they are the most bet team on their sportsbook. And they have not really changed the number, which is interesting because normally when I'm talking from a betting perspective, when a lot of money comes in and the line doesn't budge, that means the books are comfortable with their exposure, which generally means that they think that their number is right, that they would actually go towards the under. And when you look at Fangraphs projections and you look at Pacoda and you compile them all together, it also says to take the under. But my baseball brain, looking at this roster, cannot understand. And on another note, the Orioles were also baseball's most profitable team to bettors last season. So bettors kept beating the books with the Orioles. There's a very good chance that the books have an algorithm with the Baltimore Orioles that's just not computing. That happens in sports all the time. So for that reason, I am also going to join the public, and I will also be on this over. Adley Rutschman, ever since he entered the Baltimore Orioles locker room, has just been a winner. They have just been winning and winning and winning, and I think he could potentially win the MVP this year. That's how high I think of him. You bring up Jackson Holliday, and there's too much depth, and there's also not a lot of swing and miss in their lineup too, so I don't see a lot of slumping throughout the season, even though they are younger, right? We look at a team like the Reds, where there does seem to be some swing and miss in their games, where they can go on these weak slides where it looks like they can't even hit. I don't see that happening with the Orioles, and I am still intrigued with Cole Irvin's velo bump at the back end of that rotation. I'm not saying that he's going to ascend to the Cy Young, even though I have said that in the past as a joke, but I do think that he can be a mainstay in this rotation. I also think that Dean Kramer is kind of underrated at this point because he's not that exciting, and Tyler Wells just gets outs. So if they can keep you in the ballgame, and the Orioles reliever lab just keeps creating these monsters, they're going to win a lot of games. They should be the favorite in this division.
Yeah, the one thing I'll add too is you look at like the concerns I have about this team. If you can like point in some of the potential leaks. First base, Ryan O'Hearn. Okay, you got Heston Kjerstad who could plug right in there,
And Mountcastle.
or Mountcastle who can slide over. Mountcastle is potentially another like concern just if he's dealing with vertigo or whatever.
And he can't get right-handed pitch.
Yeah, you've got Cowser, you've got other guys there too. Heck, Norby could even plug in and swing it. Then I look at center field. Cedric Mullins and his injuries have been, and just inconsistent play are a little bit of a concern to me. Again, you can plug Cowser in there if you need. You can throw Stowers out there if you need. Mm-hmm. So they just have a contingency plan, I think, to each of the concerns. Obviously, those guys aren't as good defensively as Mullins, but again, you could just plug a leak and be in a pretty good spot. The fact that Jackson Holliday now can come in and elongate this lineup, like who's your 9-hitter? Is it Jordan Westburg?
It might be Holliday on open.
Is it Jackson Holliday?
It might be Jackson Holliday.
Like that's insane. And then John Means as your 4 or 5 is going to be really good. He's just a consistent arm.
And who knows, maybe Bradish looks okay, right? He's in the middle of the throwing program, and the Orioles are actually excited for how that progress
I'm
is going.
sure they want to ramp him up.
Yeah.
I'm sure he won't be on the opening day roster, but it's going to be a matter of 1 to 2 weeks.
Yeah, but
1 to 2 months.
Let's say he's back in June.
Yeah, he misses 3 turns. He'll be back before June.
No, I'm saying worst case scenario.
Yeah,
back in June.
It's tough because that is
Actually, worst case scenario is Tommy John. But
correct.
Yeah.
Kobe Mayo, I also think is going to come up at some point this year. I said someone asked a question on the call-up mailbag and about like who could be in this coming season's like Evan Carter. That might have been on the Just Baseball Show mailbag, but Kobe Mayo is my pick. Where I think he can come up late in the season and just jolt this offense in a different way with the power that he brings to the table. Can play third, can play first. Obviously, can carry the DH responsibilities as well with how much offense he brings. And then I really do think McDermott's going to contribute for this team too. So this is the most pitching they've had. The lineup is really good. Gunnar Henderson's going to take another step forward and be that. And I think, one of the best players at his position. This team, I'm shocked at the win total, to be honest. And, maybe it's almost too good to be true, but I don't know. It just seems like there's no way that they don't win like 93 games.
Okay, so clean sweep on the under for the Yankees, under 91.5, clean sweep on the over 90.5 for Baltimore. Now we jump to the Toronto Blue Jays at 87.5. I go under. I question this team's ability lineup-wise. I question their durability lineup-wise. George Springer's really good until he isn't on the field, and unfortunately, he hasn't been on the field much. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa is going to play every day for their backup catcher with Danny Jansen now dealing with the wrist fracture is Brian Servant, who is struggling to find playing time in Colorado. Then you got to rely on a guy like maybe Nathan Lucas to plug in. They have the glitz and glam of a cover athlete for a video game and Bo Bichette and even Springer. I'll throw him in the glitz and glam. Hell, I might even consider throwing Justin Turner in the glitz and glam. But what does Dalton Varsho look like after a terrible year offensively? I have too many questions about this lineup. And then the pitching staff, man. Barrios getting the ball opening day. Kevin Gausman working his way back from, I think it was arm fatigue or like shoulder fatigue. Then Chris Bassett, Kikuchi. As of right now, it's Bowden Francis because Manoah's hurt again. I know he's your X factor.
I like Bowden Francis.
Manoah's hurt again. Yariel Rodriguez dealing with back spasm after he was having immigration issues right into Canada. So Jordan Romano being hurt as well. they have too many guys on the mend right now and not enough talent in their depth to make me think that this is a team that's going to win 88 or more games. And I said it at the end of last year. They might be closer to a rebuild than anybody in baseball wants to think. I think this might be the year where at the break you start to get the idea of, hey, shit, if we're not going to pay Bo Bichette, maybe we move Bo Bichette, that kind of thing. So I do think that this year is lining up to be somewhat disappointing for Toronto, and that's why I go under.
Real quick, did you know Brandon Belt had a 2.3 F4 last year?
He mashed.
Still unsigned.
He mashed.
That guy just swings it.
Yeah.
When he's healthy, he swings it. So that was like shocking to me when I was going back and looking at the stats. I agree with a lot of what you're saying. I want to take the over so badly, though, because I do think Vladdy bounces back and has a really nice year, and he's looked good this spring training overall. I do like the options that they can plug and play with in the infield now. You know, having a Davis Schneider that you can platoon, being able to plug in, you know, a Cabin Biggio when needed and put him in positions to succeed. Connor Falefa's not great if he's your I feel like if he's your everyday shortstop. I don't love him at third. I don't really understand where they're going to stick him and how that's going to work, but I still think that's a good depth infielder to have.
I love him as a utility guy. I don't love him as an everyday bat, and my worry is he's going to be in the lineup every day.
Justin Turner, like, he had a really good year last year, and now they're probably just going to keep him from playing much third or first base, and I think he's going to continue to hit. I think that guy's going to hit really until he doesn't want to hit anymore. Yeah. So it's tough for me because I don't think the number is that high.
I don't think so.
I'm going to sit on this one for another 5 seconds. You go ahead, Peter.
That's more than fair. And I see where you're coming from, too, because I think the number is pretty accurate. So I actually make this number 85.5 compared to the 87.5, but they are a team that I think has a lot of upside, right? I'm looking at this lineup right now, and I'm thinking to myself, is Alejandro Kirk really that bad? I don't think that he is.
But is he really that good?
I think he's still a good enough hitter to be an above-average catcher in this league. I'm looking at Dalton Varsho as well. First year coming over to the Toronto Blue Jays, I feel like he finds his footing, and he ends up having a pretty good year. I do think Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is going to bounce back and have a good year, right? You guys are on the side of, I think he's going to have a great year. I think he's just going to have a good year. But a good year for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is a great year for most hitters. I still think Bo Bichette is a special bat. I think he's going to have a fantastic year as well. And if George Springer stays healthy, that is another good bat in the lineup. So, and then when I look at the pitching, I feel like it's almost solidified that they will have a guy who can win you a ball game pretty much every day. Yeah. Right? So I see the vision for the Blue Jays. That's why I didn't bet on the under. I just think a lot has to go right for them to achieve that vision. It's not as boom or bust as the Yankees, but it has a similar type feel that if everything clicks, this team could be dangerous, but a lot has to click. So I'm going to take the under just based on my numbers.
Yeah.
But I didn't bet it, and I wouldn't bet the under. But for the exercise, that's my pick.
Got it.
I'm gonna go with the over. Okay. I slightly lean, and this is not what this
like,
is one.
I think they're going to be between 85 to 89 wins.
This is one of the best. This is one of the best win total pegs, I think, because in terms of just it's really difficult.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna bank on guys just being better this year. I think there's enough irons in the fire. Where yes, they did lose Matt Chapman, but at the same time, like Matt Chapman in the second half was a detriment to them. So I think that's part of it. That's pretty interesting. But when you look at Varsho, I do think he's a lot better. I mean, that guy was a 2.2 F4 with an 85 WRC plus. Like, he's going to be better than that. And I think he can really end up kicking it in the gear and helping them in a big way. I don't think Kirk's going to be worse. I don't think there's any way he's going to be worse.
And you know what's great? The Blue Jays do have the luxury of, if Kirk still is not doing very well, Danny Jansen rates.
Yeah, he'll be back.
They could just plug him back.
He'll be back.
Yeah.
And then Tiedemann finally being, knock on wood, healthy and available and ready. Like, they're not going to waste many more bullets in the minor leagues. The second he puts together a few good starts in AAA and they feel like he's built up, he may end up being a 5-and-dive guy for them. But if a guy with that stuff is your number 5 starter as a 5-and-dive, and he's giving you 5 innings, 8 Ks, 1 to 2 runs, which I think he's going to do a lot of times, and maybe they can stretch him out further as the season progresses, that really puts this rotation over the top for me because you can say what you want about Barrios, Bassett, Kikuchi in terms of, they're not superstar pitchers, but Kevin Gausman is.
Yeah.
And those guys are all solid pitchers.
Yeah.
I don't like them as 2s, but I like them a lot as 4s and maybe 3s. So, I think that really balances the rotation out. And then the Tiedemann plug really, really helps. But you also have Francis in the meantime, who's no slouch either. My one question's the bullpen. Nate Pearson tinkering with some pitches. Can this finally be a year where he turns into a high leverage option for them? That's the big thing, because I don't like the bullpen. And that's where I could see us, any over pickers getting burned is Yimi Garcia, Pearson, Genesis Cabrera, Chad Green, and then whenever Romano comes back.
Well,
so a little bit of a yikes. But Yariel is going to come back. It's not an arm thing. And I think Yariel is a huge X factor for this ball club as well. You could stick him in the rotation if Tiedemann's not there. I'd prefer him in the bullpen and multi-inning use or high leverage.
Yeah.
He's that Swiss Army knife that I think could put the bullpen, I wouldn't say over the top, but get it to a reasonable place.
Yeah.
That's huge. They also have a couple minor leaguers that are almost big league ready stuff-wise.
Zulueta?
No, not him. But they've got some guys that can really throw.
Yeah.
And I think that's another interesting aspect to this.
Connor Cook, yeah.
Connor Cook, that was the name I was looking for. Connor Cook, I think, is just about ready, and he could plug in and end up being like a Julian Merriweather type high leverage arm.
It's so funny that you say that about the bullpen. I kind of like the bullpen.
So Romano with an elbow issue, and Swanson with a forearm issue.
Yeah. So obviously they're impactful for the bullpen.
They're their two best relievers.
They're the two best relievers. But I still think Yimi Garcia is a fine arm. Genesis Cabrera, when he did come over to the Blue Jays, looked disgusting. Tim Meza had a phenomenal year last year.
Yeah, Meza
and then if Swanson and Romano do come back healthy, I actually like the bullpen.
And how about Chad Green?
Do you trust those guys? I think they're good relievers. Do you trust them in high leverage?
I mean, Romano and Swanson, I definitely do.
Well, Romano is you always talk about this. Is he?
Yeah, it's the Canada United States thing, which is weird, but I still think he's a good reliever, obviously. But I still have faith. Like, I'm not calling it a great bullpen. I think I have more questions about the offense than the bullpen.
Fair. That makes me feel better then.
Yeah. No, that's why I was going to say, even though I'm on the under, I think I feel better about the bullpen than you do.
Look out for Connor Cook. That was. I think we might be getting him on the call up soon too.
Nice.
I just want to talk to him about his stuff. He was a non-roster invitee. Nasty, crazy K numbers.
He climbed a bunch of levels.
Crazy K numbers last year. So they do have some options they can plug in there. I'm going to go with the over, but
cool.
Yeah.
All right, we jumped to Tampa here. We got two more teams in the American League East. Tampa, the line is set as of right now at 85.5. I'll make it short and sweet. Over. I'm never going to doubt the Tampa Bay race, ever. And I see the lineup. I see a healthy Brandon Lau. I see Junior Caminero got pinched out. Where's Caminero? You're like, that sucks that Caminero's not going to be in the opening day lineup. I wish that I could see Junior Caminero play 162 in Tampa, but the problem is Isaac Paredes has the job until proven otherwise, and I love Isaac Paredes. Yandy Diaz has the job at first base until proven otherwise, so it's not like Paredes is moving over to first base, and it's not like Paredes is moving over to second, which he has played before because Brandon Lau is healthy. Shortstop is the question. Thought they did a really good job this offseason finding guys that can stop the bleeding, and Caballero and Ahmed Rosario, who's had a pretty decent spring, too.
Of course he has.
It's the race. It's the race.
I
think Pepio's going to be awesome. Don't think Taj Bradley's going to be out for long. I have to go over because they are the Tampa Bay Rays.
You want to go? I hammered the Rays. So just to be clear, again, and I said this on the AL episode, we're giving all of our picks. Doesn't mean we're betting them, right? Jack doesn't bet. Arm and I do. I have not made a bet yet until now. I bet the Rays 84.5, and I'm glad to see that the line moved. I bet the over. I bet it over 85.5 because I make the line 86.5.
Okay.
I think actually I would take the Rays over the Blue Jays this season. We forget the Rays won 99 games last year, and they still had most of their team injured. So if you're looking at the Rays right now, saying to yourself, "There's not a ton of talent here," a lot of this talent won 99 games last season.
McClanahan, Springs, Rasmussen all blew out last year, and they won 99 games.
And it's expected that at least Rasmussen or Springs will be available before the season.
Likely Rasmussen because it was an internal brace and not Tommy John. I think that's the case.
Yeah. So I'm looking at a Rays team with a great bullpen, with an offense that doesn't look electric, but then they hang 7 on you with names that you haven't heard of, and you think to yourself, oh, the Rays are just being the Rays. The Rays, the last time they went under this number was over 5 years ago.
Wow.
They're perpetually competitive with this. I mean, not new front office. It's been this incredible ever since Andrew Friedman went to the Dodgers. I mean, they just keep churning in and out. So not only did I bet them over wins, I bet them to win the division, and I bet them to make the playoffs as well.
Okay.
I still think that this team can compete with the Orioles for the division crown, just like they did last year, because while it's not the most talented bunch on paper, they're going to find ways to win because they have a secret voodoo.
Yeah. Well, and they're going to need some secret voodoo, though, because they do need to replace 4.6 F4 from Wander Franco.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he still did play 112 games last year. They got to replace 120 innings from Tyler Glass now, which accumulated to 3.2 F4.
Can he be a 3-win pitcher?
Strike out 33% of batters in 120 innings.
Yeah, I mean, he's not going to put
3.53.
those strikeout numbers, but I think he could be similar in the run prevention department. In the second half with the Dodgers, he put up a low 2 ERA, didn't walk a soul, and the strikeouts were up. And I think the Rays ID'd him as a guy who they think can be a big-time pitcher for them. So maybe not on the strikeout rate, right? It's not going to be the 6.8 guy with the extension in the 99th percentile, but I think he can still put up a mid-3s ERA and be a very effective pitcher for them.
I agree with that. I definitely think he's going to plug a big spot.
Yeah.
And at least he hedges enough of that.
Yes.
I agree. Then, sneaky, Rasmussen made 8 unbelievable starts for them. That is more than nothing. That's more than nothing. And then he had 21 McClanahan starts.
You also have to realize they won 99 games with this.
Yes.
Right? And the win total is 85.5. So that's factored into this.
And do you feel like Eflin? I mean, yeah, Eflin had a 3.5. That's gonna happen.
Dominant.
That's gonna happen again.
At
the very least.
He was one of the best pitchers in the American League last year.
So I like the over too. It's like I feel like it's so easy and you're just grabbing it, but at the same time, like, this is another team where any of the concerns I have, they have a guy that they can plug that with. They also have a lot of trade capital. Like, they would go out and trade Harold Ramirez, then bring up Junior Caminero.
Yeah.
They'll have more prospects. Then they're going to go move some prospects to go get another guy with years of control. They always add pitching at the deadline or just add something at the deadline. That Savali trade was great. Just a perfect example of, okay, Manzardo, like, they gave up a good player there. Manzardo's going to be a big piece for the Guardians moving forward. But ultimately they said, look, we got a bunch of Manzardo. We got Xavier Isaac. Like, we've got other guys. We'll cash this in for pitchers with control.
Yeah.
I think they're going to do that again this year if they have any issues, whether it's on the offensive side or on the pitching side. I still believe Brandon Lau can have that year back to the 35 to 39 home runs that we saw if he can stay healthy. And I just think this team, lineup-wise, is going to find a way to just be really solid all the way around. Caminero has a chance to be a 30 home run threat the second he comes up. So that upside being there as well. I know you love Palacios. So I'm going over. If it was 80, 89, I'd be a little bit more nervous. But at this number, I feel comfortable.
100%. And just to wrap up quickly, right, people are looking at Aaron Savali and Zach Littell, 2 and 3. Those names are not exciting at all. But Aaron Savali was great with Cleveland. That's what garnered a top prospect like Kyle Manzardo. Then he put up a 5 ERA with the Rays. Did they get fleeced? I don't think so. ERA estimators in the low 3s, so I think he got a little bit unlucky. And Zach Littell, I faded him last year, kicked my ass. For some reason, he goes over to the Tampa Bay Rays and just starts shoving, and then on top of it, looks great in spring training. So they just found another diamond in the rough, just like they did. We have to remember, Zach Eflin was a swing man for Philly that they turned into what looked like a bona fide ace last season. The Rays, do not fade them. Just don't.
They're also going to get Shane Baz back at some point. And
Does Shane McClanahan have a shot to get back?
no
He's
chance.
completely done.
Completely done. But Shane Baz, they will get back. Jeffrey Springs, there's a non-zero chance at the end of the year, but I don't think it's going to contribute to a win
We
total.
love non-zero.
Yeah.
We love the non-zero.
No, non-zero. But Shane Baz will be back, and that's a big guy to have involved in there too.
All right, let's wrap up the American League East with the Boston Red Sox. The Boston Red Sox projected win total is at 77.5. Here's what I'm going to say. I feel like perpetually negative about the Boston Red Sox. I do feel like this number is too low.
Yep.
I agree.
I think that this lineup is way better than we make it out to be. I'm totally guilty of it. I'm like, the Red Sox aren't trying. The Red Sox aren't trying. I'm looking at a projected opening day lineup of Connor Wong catching, Emmanuel Valdez at second base. That's not good.
No.
But what is good is Casas.
Don't tell Red Sox fans about Connor Wong. For some reason, that's like their cult hero right now.
Connor Wong and Reese McGuire as a catching tandem. We're going into year 3 of that. It might be the worst catching tandem in baseball. I think Rene Pinto and Alex Jackson might be worse, but it's Campus, so they're going to be fun. Yeah, so you like Pinto. So, like, we're looking at Wong and McGuire probably is the worst catching tandem in baseball.
Betancourt and Fortes?
Second worst. Fortes and Betancourt is the worst. You're right.
What about the White Sox with Maldonado and then who?
Okay, third worst. But aside from that, man, you know what I do like? I like Tristan Casas at first. I like Rafi Devers at third.
Love that.
Trevor Story's going to hit. He's going to play shortstop. The outfield alignment right now is Tyler O'Neill in left, Jarren Duran in right, and Ceddanne Rafaela, who can go get it as well as anybody in baseball, in center field. And Masataka Yoshida taking the shit defense out of the equation. I think he's going to be a good hitter this year as a full-time DH.
I think he got his sophomore slump out of the way in the second half, right? Like the league kind of adjusted to him. He fell flat in the second half. And, he was so good in the first half. I do think the defensive struggles maybe started to get to him a little bit. I think he got the sophomore slump out of the way. I'm not saying Yoshida's going to light the world on fire, but if you minimize, like Jack said, the defensive, just punishment, basically, like Schwarber, and then, just have his offense, if he's a 115, 120 WRC plus and not crushing you defensively, which it is so hard to be a bad defender in left field in Fenway Park, by the way. So he was impressively bad. So I like the bat. Like, I think he's going to be good. This offense, I think easily could be a top 10 offense in the game. I really do it from a run, just scoring runs perspective.
And then they get Vaughn Grissom back at some point.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's going to definitely make the Valdez situation a lot better.
Exactly.
And the other thing is, Casas was one of the best hitters in baseball in the second half. You know how I felt about him for a long time. He's a monster. O'Neill, we'll see what happens. But the thing is again, plugging the league, Willie Abreu was awesome as a rookie last year. He's a very solid and well-rounded player, a good defender. So, God forbid O'Neill just continues to get hurt. Boom, you've got Willier, who you can plug in there as well. Duran has been good. I kind of think they should sell high on him. My only concern here is if this team is sitting in the 70, if they're on pace for 75 to, even let's say 80 wins, do they sell?
That's my concern.
They haven't historically. And the one thing that makes me feel a little bit better is the Red Sox are the kind of team that just accepts the purgatory.
Yes.
And in this instance, it would actually help to have them get over the win total. The other thing is, I don't hate this pitching staff as much as I hated last year.
So I'm going to go as far as to say I like the bullpen. I like it. I don't hate the rotation. I like the bullpen.
The bullpen is way better.
We're kind of sitting here talking ourselves into the Red Sox because I agree with you guys. I even look at a rotation. I like Brian Bale. I like Cutter Crawford. Nick Pivetta found something with the Red Sox last year. He had the second highest strikeout rate in the second half.
So I was looking at him. I was doing like a query, not looking for Nick Pivetta, but I was just doing like fastball shape queries and things like that. And his he's got some really good traits on the fastball. Really good traits. So that'll play.
I'm a little bit concerned about the bottom half, not in terms of talent from a Garrett Whitlock.
He's great.
He's just perpetually injured. But if he can stay healthy, I think he's a good pitcher. Tanner Houck, I don't know if he's a rotation arm, but if he's your 5,
that's fine.
I think that's okay, right? Like Tanner Houck, maybe last year arm when we were looking at roster resource, Tanner Houck is in the SP2.
Yeah, I was saying, I hate him as a 2 or a 3. I'm fine with him as a 4 or 5.
Yeah, I'll take that. I think there could be some concerns here in terms of injuries, but I think, right, if that's kind of my only concern, I'm going over with you guys. I'm even looking at a bench like C.J. Cron is sitting on the bench. Like C.J. Cron could be a starting first baseman for some teams. He could still hit for some power as well if they want to slide him in to give some guys some off day. I think this team is going to be in the low 80s, but what I do find interesting is this line opened at 79.5 and it's down to 77.5.
I think everyone's so down on him now.
People just hate him because of the offseason narrative.
Yeah, but it's not a big liability. I think someone smart is hammering the under on the Red Sox, which, like, we're talking about the Orioles, right? The books were fine not moving their number. They moved the Red Sox number.
That's interesting.
So that makes me a little bit concerned taking this over. I think what they're looking at is a fluctuation, that there's pieces that we could like, but I think they're looking more negatively. I'm going to take the under. I got scared. Right. There's something off here.
That's fair.
But I will say, Red Sox fans, do
This team
see
is
the
better.
vision.
This team
I
is better.
see the vision.
This team is much more watchable this year, and I'm not. And which makes it all the more frustrating, right? Because if they went out and spent a little bit, this team could not only make the playoffs, they could be a pretty decent team. Like if they went out and got like a Jamont, all of a sudden I think we're starting to talk about this team a little bit differently. If they got maybe one other Jamont Lorenzen even for depth, but how can the bullpen now that bullpen's even stronger, or Whitlock in the bullpen?
Lorenzen's a Ranger now.
I know that's what I'm saying. But
Yeah.
if they had done that, like all of a sudden I'm feeling a little bit better about this situation. Because the bullpen's better too. Like I'm not a huge fan of Kenley at the price that they got him at, but he's still a fine back end. Chris Martin was one of the best relievers in the game, and Justin Slayton was my favorite Rule 5 pick.
Yeah.
Talk about fastball traits and pitch traits. He's going to be a seventh inning guy for them this year. Isaiah Campbell trade was good.
Yeah.
I think that they're going to kind of get him going really nicely.
Weisert's now.
Weiser can be nasty.
Weissert is
He's
nasty.
frustrating, but he can be nasty.
Yeah.
I saw him get hit by like one of the Barstool guys though, so now I think a little bit less of him. But at the end of the day,
Bush.
yeah. But at the end of the day, I think this team is a lot better than other years. And I keep forgetting they have Liam Hendricks. I wish he was available this year. Then the bullpen would be pretty fun. But no, I think this is a team that goes over. And I'm glad I can do this because I've been labeled a Red Sox hater on here.
Yep.
I'm on the Red Sox over, folks.
There we go.
I think just to wrap up, let's say the Red Sox get off to a little bit of a rocky start.
Yeah.
Is Nick Pivetta a Red Sox after the trade deadline? Right? Because if he's having a great year, but the Red Sox as a team are not in that 80-ish range, or at least projected there, do you think the Red Sox sell high on him? I think that could be to replenish that farm system. I don't know if he's a part of their long-term future. I don't know.
Aura made that point. I don't think they sell anybody that's like performing somewhat.
I think that's why I'm not sold on that. I think they would potentially sell.
Got it.
Because I think with Giolito going down, does Craig Breslow, does he think that this team can really compete? I don't think he does.
I think there are probably mandates from above.
I mean, I don't trust
Some of the
that.
team that didn't trade James Paxton last year when that team sucked because they were within how many games?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I feel, and at that point, how many starts after the deadline would Nick Pivetta be making? 6, 7,
Probably 8.
8.
Yeah.
So I feel good about this one.
Okay.
Going over.
Me too.
Yeah, I want to be on the over, but something's
You locked it
scaring
in.
me. I'm locked in. I'm on the under.
All right. Time for the American League Central. Let's get after it. Again, we go highest win total to lowest win total. No shocker here. The Twins at the top, the White Sox at the bottom. Intrigue in the middle, though. Let's start with the Minnesota Twins. And the Minnesota Twins are at 86.5, their projected wins. I love their rotation. I love what they have in terms of the lineup right now. I question the depth a little bit. I don't think that AAA team's going to be very good. Aram, you first. How do you ingest the Minnesota Twins?
It's really hard.
It's hard.
This is one of the more unpredictable teams, I think, in Major League Baseball this year because of Buxton, because of Correa, because of the pitching side. What Joe Ryan are they going to get? Can Pablo Lopez stay healthy for the duration of the year? It's been nice to see him, compile innings now, but he's had some shoulder flare-ups in the past, and that was the biggest workload we've really seen from him. So he looked good when I saw him. I hope he can keep building back. He's one of my favorite pitchers in the game. But then, what does Chris Paddock look like? Louis Varland got absolutely mashed. I just feel like there's too much volatility with this team. I'm a little jaded from last year, and I feel like there's just, I don't know. There's a lot of uncertainty with the lineup as well, too. Like, is it Matt Wallner? Is it Trevor Warnick? What's Kirilov's deal? Royce Lewis, can he stay healthy? I could play this game with almost their whole lineup.
Yeah.
I lean on the under because I just really struggle to understand with this team. And then the bullpen it's good, but
Duran's oblique is like,
Quick trivia.
that's the thing to watch.
Quick trivia question. How many offensive players for the Minnesota Twins recorded 500 ABs for them last year?
ABs or plate appearances? Because that answer changes because now I take Julian out.
yeah.
Like plate appearances, I would have Julian, but ABs, I take him out. That's a great question. 2.
1. Carlos Correa.
Really?
Yep.
The guy that, like, we just...
I've got
Guy that failed multiple physicals.
Because Parham, you're talking about, Buxton and those guys. Like, what about Kirilloff? Right?
It's like too.
Like Matt Wallner, like Max Kepler. Like, we keep going down the offense, and I'm sure you already mentioned these guys, but it's like every single guy is either new to the bigs or has injury concerns. Even a guy like Royce Lewis, right? Insanely talented, the king of grand slams.
The king of injury concerns.
The king of injury concerns. But the Twins, if they stay healthy, this could be a great team.
Yes.
That's where I see the vision.
I see the upside.
But I think when we're sitting here trying to make a bet on the over-under, what's a more likely scenario? That history repeats itself, or that just all of them stay healthy for most of the year? That's why I'm on the under personally. I make the win total 85.5. So when it was at 85.5, it was a no bet for me. Now I'm on the under. It's not too much of a leap up. When we talk about the Guardians, I'm going to say my favorite in the division, but I do like the Twins overall. I'm excited about the back half of the rotation.
Yeah.
I like Louis Varland. I think Chris Paddock can be effective. We love Bailey Ober here on the Just Baseball show.
Yeah.
And I think Joe Ryan can be good. And, of course, Pablo's great. But, again, all those guys have had their flare-ups in the past. So there's just too many concerns on the injury front for me to pitch an over. But I see the vision if they're all healthy.
Yeah.
I could see this team winning 92 games.
100%.
But the volatility ultimately has me on the under.
Okay.
Even Yohan Durant is hurt to begin the year already.
Yeah. Right. So you're on over or under?
I'm on under.
You're on under. Like,
You want to be on the over, don't you?
I'm wrong every time on Minnesota.
Oh, that is true.
I'm wrong every single time. So everything in my being is saying that they're going to get hurt again and they're going to go under.
Twins fans listening, just be on the under. Because that means they might have a great year.
Yeah, but what if I go over?
Okay?
You know what I mean?
I'm sorry, Twins fans.
I'm building up to this. I'm trying to decide. There are times where, like, okay, college football season, I have a good time with that. If I hit a cold stretch, the way I get out of that cold stretch is by, like, doing what my brain tells me not to do.
Yeah.
And the Minnesota Twins, what I want to do here, and this is the only team that I actually do it, is, like, a lot of my being is saying they're going to go under, like, shit's going to hit the fan. So that's why I'm going over. I'm going over because my mind tells me to go under.
Okay.
Fair enough. And also, just to wrap up this point on the 500 ABs thing, it is also 500 plate appearances. Right? Edouard Julien only had 408.
Julien at 408. Interesting.
Crazy.
They had Carlos Santana, who's on the field all the time.
He had 619, so you add him. That's 2 now.
There we go. Carlos Santana might walk more than he strikes out. Let's jump to the Detroit Tigers. I love this one. They are set at 81.5. If they finish above 500, then that over hits. Detroit, Chris Fetter does. I think I saw a Pitching Ninja shout out like Chris Fetter and was like, he deserves a Nobel Prize. Chris Fetter might be on the short list of best pitching coaches in baseball at this point. Mel Stottlemyre Jr. in Miami. I will throw Mark Pryor in there with the Dodgers. I'll throw Kyle Snyder in there with the Tampa Bay Rays. Aside from that, man, Chris Fetter has worked wonders for these Detroit pitchers, particularly in the rotation. But they've had guys that have been nails in the bullpen, too. Casey Mize looks awesome. Tarek Skubal looks amazing. Jack Flaherty looks awesome. Kenta Maeda is in this rotation now. And the fact is, I expect this lineup to level up, and I hope that Riley Green is healthy, but I expect a better year from Torque than what we've seen. I expect a good, complete year from Kerry Carpenter, who was hurt for a little bit last year. I'm taking the over 81.5. I think this team not comfortably finishes above 500, but I think this team does finish above 500.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you're saying, and that's not even considering that Jackson Jobe will be up this year, and he's arguably the best pitcher.
Ty Madden will be up.
Ty Madden is a high floor arm for you.
Yep.
Matt Manning, you'll see what you can get from him here. That this is a team that we were trying to figure out how to fill out the rotation last year, and this year we're trying to figure out how to make room in the rotation. So that's a totally different energy. And then you add a Colt Keith now to the equation, and there might be some growing pains, but it just gives you so much upside over the duration of the season. I think Riley Green makes a leap. Meadows is a really well-rounded center fielder all of a sudden. Looks like he could be a good piece for them. I loved the Mark Canha addition. I think they've really kind of shored up this ball club a little bit. There's not really a gaping hole like they had last year. I mean, even just having a Gio Urshela instead of some of the guys that they were rolling out there last year, I think is a huge help. And then all of a sudden, the bullpen's pretty good. They didn't subtract last year. And we're saying, like, well, why aren't you trading Foley? Maybe it's because they thought they could have a chance this year. Alex Lang, like, why didn't they trade him? Well, again, maybe they think they have a chance. They add Shelby Miller to that equation. They add Schaefer into the equation. All of a sudden, this bullpen's not bad. We didn't even mention Alex Faedo, who could be another just depth arm for them.
Plug-and-play guy.
Another plug-and-play guy. Sawyer Gibson-Long, another plug-and-play guy. They have so many more pitchers than they've had really at any point in the past, and the offense is better than it's been. I just feel really good about where this Tigers team is headed. Maybe we're a year early, and there's some growing pains.
Yeah.
But regardless, I love the direction of this organization, what's going on here with Scott Harris. But I do feel like they're gonna find a way to finish above 500.
I love it.
I'll be the negative.
Okay.
I like the under. I didn't take it. So over the offseason here on the Just Baseball show, you heard me talk about the Tigers a lot and how I was really, really excited for them. And I was hoping that they would be in the 77.5 to 78.5, and then I would be on the over.
Vegas likes him too.
This is a very bet win total. The Tigers, kind of similar to the Reds and the Royals, who we're going to talk about in a little bit, are overvalued by a lot based on these Fangraphs PECOTA projections. They're more in the 76 to 78 range. But I think there's a bump up because a lot of people are excited for the Tigers, and deservedly so. However, this could end up not going well, especially in the rotation, right? Tarek Skubal has never thrown over 150 innings. I bet on him to win the Cy Young because I'm taking the highest upside of what he can be. But he's never thrown 150 innings. This year now he throws 180. I'm looking at a guy like Jack Flaherty. Yes, he looks good in spring training, but I think we know who Jack Flaherty is, right? I'm looking at a Kenta Maeda who also has not been able to sustain a lot of innings dating back even since 2019. What does Matt Manning give us? What does Reese Olson give us? We're naming guys who we are excited about.
I think Reese Olson's pretty good.
I think he's really good, yeah.
But in 2024, I still have my concerns. I think we're just a little bit early on these guys. I could say that Reese Olson has a talented pitch mix as well. I am just a little bit...
He had 103 and 2/3 innings at a 3.99 ERA last year.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
It's very solid for a rookie.
Yeah, no, I think that's fine.
For a rookie that isn't a top 100 guy.
Yeah.
I'm looking at 2024 projections, 126 innings at a 4.27. Maybe he outperforms that. But those are just composite.
Yeah, I think he does outperform it. If he gets the opportunity. He might not even get the opportunity if other guys look great.
I think Olson's got his job in the rotation. I think Manning gets cast aside before him.
So if Mize makes the opening day rotation, you think it is in place of Matt Manning?
I do. Okay. I think Reese Olson's locked that job down with how.
And also, I look at an offense, right? I think Jake Rogers is a fine catcher. I think Gio Urshela is a below-average third baseman. I think Javier Baez is one of the worst shortstops.
They needed to do something at third base, and they did something at third base in Urshela.
Yeah.
I consider Urshela something.
Yeah, I mean, I would also consider him a below-average third baseman. Sure. Javier Baez is arguably the worst shortstop in Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
I like Cole Keith. I wonder what he does in his rookie year. Does he go crazy, or is he just solid? Right? I think he'll just be.
If he's solid, that's a huge boost for them.
Yeah. I think he'll be solid. Right? Mark Hanna, I think, is fine. I love Kerry Carpenter, Spencer Torkelson, and Riley Green, and then I think Parker Meadows has some upside there too. So
if you love Kerry Carpenter, you're going to love Colt Keith.
Yeah, no, I think Cole Keith is going to be good. I hope that did not come across where I'm like, he's not going to be.
Yeah.
I think he's a rookie, right? Does he take the league by storm? I don't know, right? When Riley Green came up, it took him a little bit. When Spencer Torkelson came up,
because he was somewhat unavailable too.
Yeah, I just think that there are things here that I don't want to immediately latch on and look at full optimism. I look at certain players on the team, and I'm really high on them, but I think there are also other holes that the Tigers just haven't filled yet, but they have guys coming up the pipe. I think we're just a year early. That being said, I'm not saying I'm on the under and hammering it, right? I didn't bet it.
Yeah.
I just think 81.5 is a little bit high. I'd put him in the 78 to 80 range. That's why I'm slightly under.
Got it.
They gave 1,000 plate appearances to Matt Vierling. Actually, even more.
Yeah.
1,400 plate appearances to Matt Vierling, Zach McKinstry, and Andy Ibanez.
Now factor in Nick Maton, too.
And Nick Maton.
Vierling was decent for them last year.
Vierling was all right. Maton was not.
Yeah, no, Maton was terrible.
He was a good AAA guy, and we saw him. Maton got a minor league deal with Baltimore. I think he's an awesome AAA depth guy, shit hits the fan guy.
Also Miguel Cabrera.
And Miguel Cabrera, yeah. Unfortunately, it's like Miguel Cabrera was a hindrance, but
You're mean for bringing that up, Arm. That's what got me.
that's my favorite play.
I know, that's like...
So, all right, Peter's on the under. Aram and I are on the over 81.5 for the Detroit Tigers. Now time for the Cleveland Guardians. The Guardians, their number is set at 79.5. I think this team is well above 500. Well, meaning 4 or 5 games above 500, especially in this division. I go over, so I'm 3 for 3 in the over. I know Gavin Williams is dealing with some elbow discomfort. I hope it's not bad. If he misses extended time, you've got Cookie Carrasco on Fangraphs if you go to that depth chart. I don't think it's going to be Carlos Carrasco for a long time. I think Xavier Curry can make spot starts and be really solid. I think this is the year that Joey Cantillo gets up to the major leagues. I think Tanner Burns could fill in and be a spot start. Yeah, eat innings guy. I think the lineup is leaning into what you heard Stephen Kwan talk about, that upped impact, and you see that. Kyle Manzardo's in the minor leagues. He might be there for 6 days. I don't see this team as a team that finishes under 500 with that starting rotation, with the options they have offensively, and we know what the Guardians do in the bullpen every year.
Yeah, I think this is one of the easiest overs that you're going to have at all. I mean, to have Bieber back, just whatever they get from him is going to be more than last year. McKenzie, whatever they get from him is going to be more than last year. Bybee, we think the world of him, and he's going to be awesome. Logan Allen's become that guy's your 4. You feel great about, and then again, you can, like you mentioned, you can kind of plug and play whoever in the 5 spot. They got a lot of different pitching prospects that could fit in.
If Gavin Williams avoids a long absence,
then this is one of the more intriguing rotations I think you got. Yeah. And then offensively, it's going to be better. And then they have a Delauder who could come up and be a difference maker. You mentioned Manzardo, who's going to be ahead of him, I think, in the pecking order chronologically.
I mean, Angel Martinez too.
Yep, it's another guy. Like, they have a lot of offensive options. I think Bo Naylor makes that leap this year and really becomes an impactful catcher for them. And I think Kwan's going to be better this year. So this is an easy over for me. I feel really good about where this team is headed.
Did you guys know that this team led Major League Baseball in walk-off losses last year? With 12?
That's a lot.
That's a lot, gnarly. That's a lot. I don't know if that means anything.
Oh, it could mean that regression and luck and those kind of things
so
is now on
that's
their side. That's
like
what I'm
luck and regression.
Exactly. Yeah. So I bet over 78 wins. So it's good. Good for me, CLV. Let's see if it actually works. I bet they're over 78 wins.
Nice.
I bet them to win the division as well. And the reason I bet them to win the division is they have lower odds than the Tigers. I don't think that should be true. I think the Guardians are clearly better than the Detroit Tigers in 2024. That's why I saw value on their division odds. I still think the Twins should be the favorite to win this division, but I saw value in the Guardians. That's why I took them as well. You guys basically covered it, but I just wanted to add that point of they were a pretty unlucky bunch coming off a 22 where they were really lucky. It hit them in the mouth. Now I think it backs to a normal team where they're in the low to mid 80s with potential for more if Gavin Williams comes back and if Shane Bieber really is at 94. I mean, this is the best rotation in the division.
Yes.
So, and also still a great bullpen, a bullpen also that was had to cover so many innings that the starting rotation couldn't last year. I think there's more depth here. I just think it's overall the second best team in the division, and clearly.
I like that you clarified the luck thing, because I was just like, I don't know if that means anything from the perspective of, I don't think that means that the Guardians are choke artists, that they walked off 12.
Shit happens, right? The Miami Marlins, when in 22, when they won 69 games, one of the more unlucky teams.
Yeah, they were like the worst one-run team ever.
They win 84, and they're the best. It's just that shit. It's just year to year. And I think the Guardians had their great 22, their bad 23, and now they're going to be back to a great 24.
Yeah, I'm with you. They also have Tyler Beede potentially.
Ooh, bang. He was in the MPB last year, I think.
I think so.
So, I don't know. Former Giant and Pirate. I feel like he might
He was a Pirate. He was a Pirate.
He was a Pirate for a minute. All right, the Kansas City Royals, 73.5. Arm, do you want to go first? Because they kind of put me in a pretzel because I really enjoyed what they did in the offseason. But this is like a staggering number for a team that won 56 games last year.
Yeah, I think they're giving them a little bit too much credit.
Too much.
Look, this team's going to be better. They're going to be very watchable compared to other years.
Yes.
And I think this is a fun and young team. That said, they're not going to make up 20-something wins, right?
What,
Did they win 56 games
wins.
last
They
year?
won 56, and they're at 73.5 now, so you're banking on an 18-win increase. They're not good.
I'm not seeing that in the additions that they've made. Yes, there's some nice pieces. I think getting Vinny Pasquantino back for a whole season is probably their biggest addition, to be honest.
But he's not an 18-win player.
No, he's not an 18-win player. I think he's close, but no. At first base, he's just not going to be that, even if he absolutely mashes.
Yeah.
Look, Renfroe, that's a 2-win player at best pretty much every single year. They needed that, but again, that's not going to move the needle for you.
Yeah.
I do love having Lugo and Waka added to the equation. I think Singer's going to be better, but
18 wins better.
18 wins.
I'm also not even sure if Singer's going to be that much better. Like, I think he's going to be like, he won't be like one of the worst pitchers in Major League Baseball, but I don't know how much better he actually gets.
We talked about it, I think, right? Sinker velo. Or was that you and I on the
No, I think we
X
talked
Factor?
about that.
We talked about that. X Factor. Sinker velo. He was like 95 in 22. He was awesome. He was like 92 in 23, and that sinker sucked out loud.
Yeah, it got
sinker
crushed. I'm going under.
under.
Look, they could easily win 70 games, be way more watchable. It's like, okay, the future is bright. They're heading in the right direction. But I don't see a player that really changes things from a 100-loss team to, a team that can win 73.5?
Yeah, 73.5.
I just don't see that.
I don't see it either.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I just think this number is a little bit overinflated. I mean, I do make the number, and it was so funny. I was going into this year similar with the Tigers, right? Like, the composite projections on Fangraphs were on 78. I made it 80.5, and I was like, oh, I'm higher on this team. But then it comes out, all right, well, it's 81.5. The Royals, composite projections anywhere from 69 to 71. I'm going to be the high guy because I like some of these guys. I'm at 72. They're at 73.5. And it's just like, all right, so even if I'm the high guy in the projections, it's still over that. Yeah. So I just have to go under based on value. But what I will say is Cole Reagans is just a freak.
Can't pitch every day, though.
But he can't pitch every day. That was literally verbatim what I was about to follow up with. Like, I like Seth Lugo. I think he can keep them in games, but he's not going to go out there and win you the game. Same with Michael Wacha. Jordan Lyles is still in this rotation, and I'm not a big fan of Brady Singer. And we haven't even talked about the bullpen. The reason they won 56 games last year, no lead was safe. This was a horrific bullpen. Do you know how many overs we cashed on this team last year? And it was never over because this bullpen just cannot lock the door. And they didn't bring in much to kind of hedge that. It's better than it was last year.
Yeah.
But it's better than 29th in ERA.
Well, they also had Chapman
25th.
throwing the shit out of the ball in the first half.
So this is a team I'm excited about certain players. I think Michael Garcia is a very good piece for them moving forward. I think he's kind of going to be a part of their core.
Yeah.
He was on a short list of guys with a zone contact over 80% and a hard hit rate over like 40. I forget the exact number, but he was on a short list.
Wait.
I do like him as a player. Vinny P, Bobby, the rest,
Yeah.
I'm with you. All right, so I think it's a consensus under on Kansas City. And now we wrap up with the Chicago White Sox. The number's 60.5, folks.
60.
They are expecting this team to lose 102 games. And then you take a gander at the starting rotation. You take a look at the lineup. You say, are we sure the number isn't 50.5? I may be jaded, I guess, but again, like, I'll make the point. Their opening day starter hasn't started a professional baseball game in his life. The last time he started was pre-COVID at the University of Tennessee in Garrett Crochet. You've got a guy in Eric Fetty who was the KBO MVP last year, but he was in the KBO last year. He's the 2. Got a guy in Michael Soroka who's been in the booth like since he's been on a major league mat. Like, it's so hard for me to look at this rotation and say, yeah, this is a 62-win team. This bullpen is horrible. I'll say it again. Jordan Leisure's first career major league appearance should come in a save situation. That's how bad everybody else is in that bullpen. And the lineup, I can close my eyes and already see the graphic. We've made the difficult decision to trade Eloy Jimenez. We've made the difficult decision to trade Luis Robert. We wish them all the best in their future endeavors. Signed, Chris Getz. I see that already in July. This team's not winning 61 games.
Their starting catcher is Martin Maldonado.
Yeah, and their backup is Max Stassi.
He literally the most unusable catcher in Major League Baseball last year. To me, this is... I love taking the really low win total overs.
Yeah.
I can't with this team, man. This team stinks. And this might be one...
You and I have the same feeling where it is too low and we kind of want to go the over, but how do we pitch an over? because I made the line 64.5.
Oh, Moncada kills.
No, I made the line 64.5, and then Dylan Cease got traded, and now I don't even know what to make the number. And then I'm sure the projections would tell us slide over, but you're right. Like, Yoan Moncada bounces back. I don't think that.
Andrew Vaughn is a 2.5 win player now. He's got a career WAR of like negative 0.6.
Like, there are some names that I like, but I'm not confident that they bounce back. So I have to go with the under because I don't know when they're ever going to be favored in a game. And I'll make it even clearer how much I think this team is going to be terrible. I think the A's are going to be better. I think the A's have a better roster.
I think so.
I think the A's are going to be better too.
Yeah.
You have a middle, up the middle here. Catcher, Martin Maldonado. Then you have Paul DeYoung and
Nicky Lopez.
And Nicky Lopez.
Yeah. Nicky Lopez, kind of a Just Baseball Show legend, sort of. Remember?
Well, Braves. He was a Braves legend.
Braves.
Yeah.
And Just Baseball Show legend.
Sure.
I mean, Mike Soroka, Chris Flexen, and then whoever you plug in there. Yeah, I mean, forget it, man.
Forget it.
This team's losing 108, 109 games.
I think so.
And that'll put them under.
I think so.
We're going under.
Let's wrap this thing up with the American League West. Before we do that, this is like actually the best episode of the year. I feel like all the win total. I like the player awards. I think a little bit more because we get to highlight individuals and like it's never bad. This is like half good, half bad, but it is fun. And I will say, sitting outside in South Florida doing this is way better than sitting in my 1-bedroom apartment in Indianapolis with like most of my lights off in my apartment. So,
and the weather, I just can't get over how beautiful it is right now because people might say, oh, they're in Florida. Is it muggy? Is it hot? I think it's 70 degrees and it's perfect humidity and just a little wind. Oh, it's perfect.
You're excited to get back to Manhattan though, Aram?
No.
All right, let's jump in with the Houston Astros. 92.5 is their projected win total. This team, over. I'll just get it out of the way right now. This team could be the best team in the American League this year. They are, I think you made the point like a month ago, as complete as they've ever been. They add Josh Hader to that bullpen. I don't even need to do like the roster breakdown. Over.
Yainer Diaz is now the catcher instead of Martin Maldonado. Yainer Diaz could be one of the best catchers in Major League.
You took one of the arguably the worst catcher in Major League Baseball and just replaced him with a guy who could be an all-star.
Yeah. And people are saying, well, look at the rotation, right? The rotation is not as complete as in prior years. And I see where you're coming from if you don't think that Christian Javier bounces back, which I do. I'm also a fan of Ronel Blanco. I'm also a fan of Justin Verlander coming back as well. And then I think Framber actually has a better year than he did last year. And it seems like, Framber kind of regressed last year. Still pretty dominant, 3.45 ERA and
which
about
is crazy. He feels
200
like
innings.
So much worse than that.
Right, it feels like he was so much worse than that. So I think he's going to improve. And then the bullpen is just overwhelming. I mean, those three at the top, right? Those three are like the equivalent of when we look at the Dodgers, where it's like Mookie, Freddie, Ohtani. They have like that version of a bullpen with Hader, Abreu, and Presley. And we saw what that has done for teams in the past, similarly to the Royals of those times. But they just have so much depth everywhere throughout their team. And also, I think we're getting over the Jeremy Pena sophomore slump here. I think he's going to be better. Kyle Tucker, Altuve, Bregman in a contract year, I think is going to have a fantastic year. And I think Yordan Alvarez could win the MVP this year. All he has to do is stay healthy. I think this team wins 100 games. I bet they're over 91.5 earlier on. Good to see it at 92.5, but I think this team is going to be a juggernaut. They're my number one ranked team in the American League.
I see one turnstile, and it's center field. Jake Myers, he's going to have the job opening day. I think Jake Myers can be good. If he's not, Mauricio Dubon is a guy that is back, that hit near 300 last year. He doesn't slug, and he doesn't walk, but he hit 300, and he can play center field. And then your guy, Joey Loperfido, could take over that center field job and look like a Chas McCormick type ascension where it's like, oh shit, we have an everyday player on our hands.
Yep, and I think they might have him. You know, they might have an everyday player there, and I know they're really excited about what Joey's doing. He's getting run. I mean, it was cool when we went to the game. We're looking at like the Astros dynasty lineup, and then it's Joey Loperfido right there.
Ahead of
Pena. I mean, he's been swinging it unbelievably well. But the thing with Myers is I feel good with him because, look, the offense has been inconsistent, but you've seen the defensive metrics, man. Like, at the very least, he's going to be your 9 hitter and go fucking get it.
Yeah.
So, like, if that's what you got at the very least, Caratini is the backup as well.
I love the backup.
The rotation does make me a little bit nervous when we're talking about the win total being like similar to the Dodgers. I know it's not as outrageous of a win total, but when we're talking about one of the higher win totals, I look at the rotation, I get a little nervous. But then you look at a bullpen that could pretty much take over in the 6th inning and shut the door like most days. It makes me feel a lot more confident, especially when you look at the offense. And I mean, what's the timeline on like Urquidy? It looks like bad news, but Luis Garcia,
I think it's the break.
Okay, that's enough to help this conversation. McCullers,
if you get anything from him,
you're hoping. But at the end of the day, like this team is just really damn good, and I think Abreu is going to be better this year. I don't think that it's him fully fizzling out. I think he bounces back.
I knew I needed a life. There are a couple moments like every given year where I'm like, wow, I need another hobby that's not baseball related. But I turned to Aram when we got to that ballpark in West Palm, and I just said, I love Victor Caratini as a backup catcher. I was like, oh my God, I need a hobby. But having said that, I love Victor Caratini as a backup catcher.
I think this team is going to have, I think this team is going to have a historically good second half. Because I think their second half rotation is going to look like Justin Verlander, Framber Valdez, Christian Javier, Luis Garcia, Hunter Brown. And then that bullpen and that offense. They are going to be crazy. Spoiler alert, they're my World Series pick.
And that's assuming they don't make a trade.
Exactly. They are going to be an overwhelming team to face. They're going to beat you in all aspects. Also a good defensive team on top of it. They have everything. I'm excited for Joe Espada, the new manager.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe a different look there. This team I am terrified of as an AL East guy. Mm-hmm. I'm looking over there out in Texas thinking to myself, shit, if the Rangers win, and we forget, like, this Astros team went toe-to-toe with the Rangers without a fully healthy bunch.
Yep.
Yes.
Like, they had a bad year in 190 games. I think they go crazy.
I like the Espada point because Dusty Baker was force-feeding us Martin Maldonado.
Oh, my God. And not playing Chas McCormick as much as he should. He's one of their better players. And I know Espada loves Loperfido and like some of the young players. He's going to be creative and more aggressive and not do the old guard thing, which I like to see from teams that, have other options.
Yes.
And sorry to wrap up real quick, don't you think the Astros will also be more aggressive maybe than usual at the deadline if things are starting to go wrong?
Contract
year, right? Some of their guys are getting older, right?
And they already were incredibly aggressive. I mean, they went out and got a Hall of Fame pitcher and gave up two top prospects.
Exactly. Like, how long do they have Verlander here, right? They've seen the injuries. They know they can win now. The window is now. That's why they were terrible for 10 years and before this, right? So I think this is the year they're all in, and they're going to be disgusting.
And to further that point, they don't have anybody that's untouchable in that farm system. They have maybe one top 100 prospect.
Yeah.
That's like, nobody's like, oh, we can't move this guy, non-starter, Spencer Jones, Yankees-esque, right? They said no to C-Steele because Spencer Jones was involved. If a Melton or a Luis Baez or an Arrighetti is involved, they're saying like, all right, screw it.
And they can still pull off a trade because they've got enough pieces there.
They might not ever need to because their second half team is going to be so good.
Correct. Okay, the Texas Rangers, the reigning World Series champs, their number's set at 89.5. It's an interesting one, and let's not pretend that they were an 100-win team. They were a wild card team, and they had to go on the road in the wild card series. Now, they got there, and they won the World Series after going on the road in the wild card, but they were a team that was in the high 80s last year. They, I think, got better lineup-wise via the draft, which is amazing. Evan Carter is going to play 162. Wyatt Langford is going to play 162. And if he is around Rock Express on opening day, I'm taking the pitchfork and I'm going right to Globe Life Field. The rotation is, can you survive pre-All-Star break? Because you will get Tyler Mahle back. It seems like you will probably get some version of Jacob deGrom back. There are going to be reinforcements that return. Am I worried about Nathaniel Lowe? A little bit. Oblique, that's a big guy. Am I worried about Corey Seager with that sports hernia surgery? A little bit. Again, that's a big guy, swings really hard. They have an incredible lineup even without maybe the best shortstop in baseball and one of the better slugging first basemen in the game. I go over. I think this team is confident, and I think they've done enough to piece it together pitching-wise to get them to the second half. I think that this team finishes in the low 90s.
I go under personally because I think that those problems early on in the season, the losses are going to start to pile up a little bit. But I also want to be clear to Rangers fans. I think you're going to make the playoffs, and then once you're in the playoffs, I think you might meet the Astros again in the ALCS. Like, I think they are going to be, once the DeGroms and the Scherzers and the Malleys come back, they're going to be one of those unstoppable forces where ALCS, Astros, Rangers, it goes to Game 7 and then anything can happen.
Yeah.
Like, I think they're going to be that good, but in a regular season format, I think they're going to struggle a little bit, especially early on in the season. And just like the hammer on top of the nail, the reason I'm on the under, if Corey Seager is not fully healthy, because Corey Seager almost won the MVP last year but didn't play a full season. That's kind of been his MO his whole career, right? So if that's already surfacing to begin the season, it's hard for me to jump on this team. Again, you mentioned Nathaniel Lowe already starting on the injured list too. So I will take the under because of all the injuries that I think they're going to pile up.
Yeah.
But playoff time, I'll reinvest back in them when they're healthy.
Gotcha.
I'm in the same boat. I think this is a wild card team.
Yeah.
And a wild card team at like 87, 88 wins.
It's still a good season.
It's a really good
Right, they
season.
won 90 last
They
year.
make the playoffs, they can win it all. But, there's a lot of young hitters that they're leaning on, whether it's Evan Carter, I think, is amazing. But, let's see if he can do it. Can he hit lefties? What's that situation going to be like? Langford looks like the best hitter on the planet.
Yeah.
But is he going to have any growing pains? Is there going to be some ebbs and flows? Maybe. Ezekiel Duran really struggled in the second half. What does that look like? And again, are they plugging Jared Walsh at first base? Like, who's playing
As
first?
of right now,
I think they should put Foscue there, to be honest.
Yeah.
But anyways, I just look at the rotation right now. The bullpen isn't good enough to bail out the rotation through the first half. I am a little worried about the bullpen. I know Leclerc had some big moments in the postseason. I know he had a good regular season. The peripherals, and I just watched that guy. I don't trust him this year in high leverage. Robertson,
Yeah.
you don't need to ask. You go ask a Marlins fan about David Robertson. But I like some of the guys that they have in that bullpen, but I do think that it's not great. I think the first half is going to be a little bit of like a everyone's going to call it a hangover. I don't think it's a hangover. I think it's more of just where they're at right now.
Healthy.
But then they get healthy, they'll get right. I'm with you, Peter. And I think they finish really strong and finish 86, 87 wins. Sneak a wild card spot, and they're still one of my favorites to win the World Series, but
Exactly.
they finish under.
Yeah, so I just want to, again, make something clear. We're going under, or at least we are, because of their early season struggles. They're going to have a great second half, probably going to make the postseason, and then they're probably going to go on a run. But it's not an indictment. If the roster was fully healthy, I'm on the way over. But it's not.
Got you. I am on the over. Seattle is at 87.5. This is a very hard number for me.
It's a perfect number.
It's a very, very hard number for me. And this feels like a postseason number, right? If they win 88 games, they're in the postseason. If they win 87, they fall a little bit short. We've seen Seattle go down to the wire each of the last 2 years. 2 years ago, it was just shy? Or was it wild card? And then last year, they get in. No,
last year they didn't get
I had a reverse. So
they had that 16-inning game with the Astros.
Exactly. With the Astros. So, I don't know. It's a tough one for me. I'm going to save it. RMU first.
I actually really like this over.
Okay.
I do. I just feel like this team satisfied a lot of the concerns I had in terms of adding power through that lineup. They needed to slug more. Okay, you go get Jorge Polanco. And I know they're injury prone. I get it, but you go get Jorge Polanco. You go get Mitch Garver, who when he's on the field is a home run machine.
Yep.
I think Ty France is going to be better this year and some of the adjustments that he's going to be able to make. I love that Brant Brown is in the fold there, by the way, too. Marlins hitting coach that, I've heard nothing but unbelievable things about the way he helps players prepare and get them going. Julio Rodriguez, I think, can make that MVP jump. J.P. Crawford in the second half was one of the better all-around players. And then that rotation, man, like, come on. This rotation's absolutely insane. I feel like this is the year, finally, where they can get closer to that 90, 91 win. I know they've done that in the past, but I think be a more complete team. And I just think this number's too low because this lineup has more balance. I like the upside that they have, and this pitching I'm never going to bet against.
So they got in with 90 in 2022. They got left out with 88 in 23.
And I think this team is better than those teams.
Yeah.
I'm on the under just because I think they win 87 games, right? Like, you're probably on the over. What do you? How many games do you think they win?
I think they win like 91, 92.
Okay, so you're a little bit more higher, but again, me being on the under doesn't mean I'm down on this team. I still think that they're going to be in playoff contention. The rotation is so great. Yeah, that's going to keep them in most games. I think this bullpen isn't very good. Or, excuse me, I think it's not nearly as good as it's been for them, which has been a big strength.
Yes.
Because they can kind of keep repeating these guys, but when you keep repeating them and you just keep trading them, like they just got rid of Justin Topa, who was a big reliever for them last year, right? So it's like Andres Munoz, who has electrifying stuff, but doesn't have a ton of closer, experience.
Reps. He doesn't
have a ton of reps there, right? Gregory Santos, arm thinks he's terrible. No, I'm just kidding. We just had a debate on whether he's nasty or not. I still think he's good.
He's hurt.
Exactly.
He's got a lap thing. Sash might be out for a long time.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, all right, I do love the rotation, but then afterwards, it's not that same lockdown bullpen. And I like right arm, to your point that you were talking about the added power. They certainly did, but they also lost some in Eugenio Suarez, right? So it's like, I think they're more
22 bombs last year. I think Garver had more than that, and I think Polanco can hit more than that.
Maybe Polanco can hit more than that, but also Mitch Garver and Polanco, guys who have been banged up and have had injury concerns before. So if they're not fully healthy for the year, are they still providing that same power? J-Rod's going to go crazy. I think he could win the MVP. I still think J.P. Crawford is a very good shortstop, but it's just there's not that much thump in the lineup. And I watched a similar lineup last year kind of struggle throughout the entire season. And then they brought on like Mitch Haniger. Like, what does he look like?
Right.
Does Dominic Canzone take the next step? Josh Rojas is still in the lineup, right? Like, I like Cal Raleigh a lot. I think he's a good hitter.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not worried about him. J.P. Crawford, these guys I'm not worried about. But some of the power guys they brought in have more injury concerns. The bullpen is, I think, a decent amount worse than it's been in the last few years. But the rotation is just so damn good. That's why I think their floor is high. But I don't love their ceiling, if that makes sense. Like, I don't think they have a crazy amount of upside. That's why I think this number is so perfect, because I literally think they win 87 or 88 games. I think they're right there.
So they got more powerful, but they didn't reinvent the wheel in terms of their lineup.
Exactly.
Like, they made incremental improvements, but you can't call it, they changed their identity entirely. I'm with you there, but I think they added a couple of guys that have 30 threats. Mm-hmm. And if they have 3 guys combined for 90 homers, I love it. I asked you, Arm, are you entirely sold on Bryce Miller putting together a complete solid year?
I'm sold on him putting together a number 5 type season at the very first.
Because I was going to say the 6 is Hancock. I have long been a Hancock supporter, but I am souring on him, especially with what I've seen this spring.
That is a problem. They are an injury away from it starting to get a little thin.
Yeah.
They were also, their rotation was very healthy last year.
Very, very healthy.
I hope the same.
Yeah.
But it's like, this sport sucks in that way where it's like, all right, you've been healthy. Like, Arm, you made a point about Pablo Lopez that I thought was so smart. He's dealt with injuries in the past. He was fully healthy last year. I hope he continues that. But, like, who knows?
You have no idea.
We have no idea. So if the rotation gets banged up, like, what if they lose Kirby?
Yeah,
right. It's
you start reeling if you lose a Kirby or a Gilbert, especially a Luis Castillo.
It's almost like with these so many starting pitching injuries, I almost like give me a great offense and a great bullpen, and then we'll see what a starting pitching looks like. Like, I'm not as big into like the starting rotation.
I'm the opposite. I want to see a team that's like 8-9 deep.
Yeah,
and see how they can survive that.
Which is why we were on Cincinnati, and like now that they're really going to be tested because the entire lineup's getting tested.
They're like 2 injuries away from Levi Stout. So I don't feel too confident in terms of like the pitching could get ugly fast.
Well,
but
Levi's now in a place where they know what they're doing.
Yeah, that's true. They're gonna get him right there. They're gonna have better plans for him. But they do have a lot of prospect capital. I think DePoto's gonna be aggressive if they need to be.
54%. That's his goal. 54%.
Yeah. Oh yeah, 54%.
Okay, all right. Let's play a game. What is 54% of 162?
I think that's under.
I think it's right at
it's right under.
I think it's right on the money.
I think it's 86 or 87.
I think it's
right. Was probably looking at. He's like, I got the numbers right where I want them.
Yeah, under.
I think the big X factor has got to be Jorge Polanco.
Yes,
he's a 30 home run threat.
So is Garver.
I mean, either of those guys can be that 30 home run threat. I feel much better about the situation.
All right, so Peter and I are on the under. Aram is on the over. 2 more teams.
You're on the under.
Yeah, I'm on the under.
Okay. I like
and my big encapsulating reason is I worry about starting pitching depth. And that 3-headed monster in the bullpen that we loved in January or February of Munoz, Brash, Santos, 2 of them are on the mend. Like,
That one, that really hurts.
That really hurts.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm on the under. I like those two on the men could really, really suck.
100%.
We move to the LA Angels, who are at 72.5. I look at the starting rotation and I don't see 73 wins. I have a soft spot for Reed Detmers. I think Reed can be great. Patrick Sandoval, I think, is solid, but he's an opening day starter, and he shouldn't be an opening day starter on a good team. And then I question the rest of it. I question the bullpen. The lineup, I think Peter likes the lineup again, because of course you do. They have the worst farm system in Major League Baseball.
Not even close.
They have 0 reinforcements coming. The reinforcement last year is now a Houston Astro in Trey Cabbage. So I go under because I think the situation is so bleak for Mike Trout, for Artie Moreno, for Ron Washington, and for Perry Minasian.
What did you say the win total is?
72.5.
Do you know why I just went like this?
Because you like the lineup.
No, because it opened at 71.5, and like, who's taking the Angels over? It moves.
Somebody's taking the Angels over.
I'm on the over. I hate
You're
it.
on the over?
I'm on the over, and I hate it. I hate every second of this
Don't
team.
watch a game. Don't watch a game this year.
But then I look at the lineup. We did this exercise. Look at the lineup. If you're on roster reserve right now, don't you like kind of like it?
No.
This is the third year. This is the third year in a row we've had this same conversation.
I thought you were going to be on my side. You're not. I think it's like pretty good. I do. I mean, I like Logan O'Hoppe. I like Zach Neto.
I do like
Moniak
O'Hoppe and Neto a lot.
I
think Taylor Ward doesn't suck.
Anthony Rendon. Imagine if he liked baseball. And then Nolan Schanuel, I think, is going to slash 300, 400, 200 or something like that. You know?
He's going to run the wrong way.
Exactly. Somehow he's going to slug negative in a way. And I still think Luis Rengifo is fine. I think there's a lot of pitchers in the rotation who are like 5-inning, 3-run guys.
I'll give you this.
Not very good.
I do think this lineup is not terrible. Like, I don't think this lineup sucks.
Do you think the Angels or the Royals are better?
That's a great question.
Because I probably think the Angels might be a little bit better.
I think the Angels are better.
And there's a 2-win gap. There's a 1-win gap. The Angels are lower than the Royals. Based on value, I'm going to go over. I hate it. I'm not betting it. But I'm on the over, and I hate it.
You know, well, the Royals case.
Oh my God, you're on the over.
The Royals case.
Oh my God.
The Royals case is a good one because this team is better than the Royals.
Yeah,
Is it not?
but like
Because like Sandoval doesn't suck.
No.
Canning doesn't suck.
No.
Detmers doesn't suck. Tyler Anderson sucked last year, but he historically, or at least the last few years, has not sucked.
You know what?
And I actually like Chase Silseth.
No, it's okay to say he sucks. They're a 72.5 win total team, right? And I like Silseth.
I like Silseth.
Sue me. Let's take the over.
Yeah,
Jackie Witt?
No,
We're
I'm
doing
not.
it again.
I'm not. So here's the thing. I like the Angels more than the Royals. I think 73.5 is a crazy number for Kansas City. I think they win 68 games. I think the Angels win 69, 70 games, and that's under 72.
They're both under. Okay, I see where it comes
Yeah,
from.
but they're going to be on pace for 68 wins or something, and these fucking maniacs are going to add at the deadline.
They might get.
They're going to trade whatever they're.
If that's the case, I'll eat shit. I'm cool with it. I'm in if they start doing
I'm going over.
those. You know what those are? Those are Rockies vibes.
They're becoming the Rockies.
Damn it! All right, now I gotta go over.
I think Neto.
You want the over? No,
Let's
I'm on
just
the
do
over.
it.
I know.
Let's do
I-
it.
But seriously, but on a serious note, I think Neto's gonna have a really good year. He was hurt a huge portion of last year, and then when he came back playing banged up, O'Hoppe I love. We had him ranked as a top 30 prospect before last year. Was off to an unbelievable start, then goes down. Full seasons of both of those guys makes a huge difference. Drury was banged up. Think he's still a solid player. I do think this team's going to piece it together enough to win 75 games.
They might win the division. No shot.
They have Mike Trout.
I don't think they will.
They have Mike Trout,
they have
the
Mike
ghost
Trout.
of Shohei Ohtani.
True. All right, let's tie a bow on this thing with the Oakland Athletics. Oakland, 57.5.
Over. Over. I bet the over. I'm telling you, folks. I bet over 57 wins.
I have
This
a serious.
is 60-win team. It is.
Are they going to start Nick Allen at shortstop?
Who cares?
Honestly, me. At that point, we were talking about it. I don't mean to disparage Nick Allen, but there's a lot of AAA shortstops I'm taking over Nick Allen. And I'm not even talking like prospects, like just AAA shortstops.
We also have to remember this is the lowest win total in MLB history. This is the lowest.
This
is the lowest.
Oh, then I'm taking the over on that alone.
Okay, so
Yeah, this team isn't that shit.
Exactly. And so
This team might be better than the White Sox, like we said.
So this is what the books did. Last year, they put up a 59.5. It was one of the most bet unders. They got crushed, right, when the A's only won 50 games. So
We said under that year.
We said under that year. They lowered it by 2 wins, even though this team is objectively better. That is, we're seeing value. What they thought was the worst roster was a 59.5 win team. They got burned, so they were like, we don't want to get burned again. Now is the time where we go back over, right? You're talking about Nick Allen. I agree. But at the same time, like Zach Geloff, they're going to have a full year from him. Ryan Noda, Brett Rooker, Seth Brown. They even just brought in J.D. Davis, and nobody
love that,
realizes.
Well,
and I think he's a good player.
Miguel Andujar's hitting the shit out of the ball right now.
Shea Langeliers I like at the catching position too. And then you look at a rotation where, it's not great, but they at least have big leaguers now they weren't throwing.
It's not a total disaster. They also have a guy that could be one of the best closers in Major League Baseball.
Exactly.
I don't know how many save situations he's going to have, but a big problem about it, and you were kind of telling me this sometimes when I want to like take the Oakland or take a really crappy team when I like the matchup. You're like, maybe lean to the first 5 because these bullpens will absolutely obliterate
the Royals.
games.
It's like you cannot take them full game.
If you have a guy that can hold on to the few leads that you have, that's huge. And Mason Miller is going to be a dog for them if he can stay healthy. They did add Trevor Gott to the equation. Like they have just more able bodies. Yeah. And we're not talking about finishing 500. We're talking about not being the worst team ever, basically.
Exactly. It's all about expectations.
And Darryl Hernandez, I think, is going to end up being that shortstop by June for them. Came over in the Cole Irvin deal. He's really solid. I think he can be at the very least, a slightly above replacement level player. Nick Allen's not. So, like, that makes a big difference.
Also, how about the starting rotation? Woods, Stripling, Sears, Blackburn, Boyle.
Way better than last year.
Yeah, and you got Joey Estes and Beto, kind of waiting in the wings at this point. Like, that's way better than Muller, Waldachuk. Who else was in that rotation last year?
Oh man, hold on. I need to pull it.
It was.
I also
really
like Soderstrom to make a leap this year. I think that guy's going to.
What about Lawrence Butler as well?
Lawrence Butler can swing it too. They've got just more options, more guys that
he's led the league in stolen bases, and I expect him.
He can't be worse than he was offensively at all.
He's projected with 316 OBP and 52 bags. It's amazing.
That's amazing. I want to see.
Hot take. I think this team wins 70 games.
No.
Yep. I think they're actually decent.
I'll give you $30 if you can guess who was second on the A's in pitcher F4 last year.
In pitcher F4? Oh, man. So was Sears 1?
Nope. Sears was 4.
Number 1?
Number 2.
Yeah.
Paul Blackburn was number 1.
Blackburn was number 1.
This just hammers home the point because I think there's going to be multiple pitchers who eclipse this F4 total. This is qualified pitchers.
Yeah. Number 2.
Yeah, I don't even know who he is, to be honest.
Not Freddie Tarnick.
Lucas Urseg.
Oh, the reliever.
Urseg, the former position player.
Yes. We saw him in Biloxi.
Oh, my God.
Point being, they got no production from anybody. They're going to get a few guys giving them at least a 1 to 2 WAR on the pitching.
Even Luis Medina looked better in spring, too. His velo's back.
I think he's hurt.
Oh, he's hurt now?
Yeah.
Oh, that's the Oakland A's for you.
Yeah.
But I still think that this is a good team. I think Stripling can be solid. It's funny that Alex Wood is starting opening day, but Paul Blackburn's fine. JP Sears is fine. And Joe Boyle has a lot of upside. So I think he'd be a fool to be on the under, personally.
So you're on the over?
I'm on the over.
I'm on the over. You're on the over?
I'm on the over.
Plug the merch.
Go check out the Just Baseball merch store. It's in the episode description. Hats, T-shirts, hoodies, more in that episode description. And if you enjoyed this episode on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. If you enjoyed this episode on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please rate and review 5 stars. It really helps out the show. We really, really appreciate it. This was a banger of an episode. Korea series, Shohei Ohtani betting on badminton. Not actually.
His interpreter.
I know. I'm just fucking around. And then all the American League win totals. We'll have player awards. We're going to have a bunch of stuff coming next week. And opening day is right around the corner. For Jack, for Aram, I'm Peter. And with that, thank you, everybody.